Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I would like to continue sharing with you a haunting and tragic story revolving around the lives of Hoai Ca and Hùng. This is a story that is not only the pain of one single family, but also a wake-up call about the devastating consequences that can arise from poverty, desperation, and the wrong choices made in moments of hopelessness. In the previous episodes, viewers witnessed Hùng family falling into the darkest period of their lives after a sudden misfortune struck. Overwhelmed by mounting hardships and the relentless pressure of daily expenses, Hùng mother, in a moment of despair, turned to loan sharks as a last lifeline. At first, the borrowed amount was not too large, just enough to help her get through a difficult phase. However, with exorbitant interest rates, the debt quickly ballooned day by day, hour by hour, far beyond the repayment capacity of an elderly woman whose physical strength and mental resilience were steadily fading. What followed was a chain of relentless nightmares. The debt collectors kept showing up, first with threatening phone calls, then with direct intimidation. Their cold and cruel words constantly surrounded her, leaving Hùng mother living in fear, unable to eat or sleep in peace. Not wanting her children to be dragged into the situation, she silently endured everything, hiding her suffering deep inside. Eventually, when she was pushed to the brink, she was forced to agree to meet the debt collectors at their old meeting spot, clinging to a faint hope that she could beg for more time and plead for mercy so her family might have a way out. But that meeting did not unfold as she had hoped. On a deserted road with no one in sight, the initial conversation quickly escalated into a tense argument. The desperate pleas of a terrified mother could not soften the cruelty of the debt collectors. In a matter of moments, the situation spiraled out of control. Hùng mother was assaulted and beaten unconscious amid sheer panic and terror. Although she tried desperately to cry out for help, her screams were swallowed by the cold. Empty surroundings, no one heard them, and no one came to her rescue. After that horrifying moment, she was dragged away, leaving behind an empty road and a chilling void. From that instant on, Hùng mother completely lost contact with her family. No phone calls, no messages, no sign of where she was or what condition she was in. Her sudden disappearance was like a knife piercing the hearts of the entire family, signaling the beginning of an even greater tragedy. Meanwhile, Hùng and his wife, Hoai Ca, had no idea what had truly happened. When they realized they could no longer reach his mother, an ominous feeling crept into their hearts. The couple frantically rushed around, knocking on the doors of relatives, borrowing every possible amount of money with the sole hope of paying off the debt and rescuing his mother from danger. After countless efforts and exhaustion, they finally managed to gather 80 million VND, a huge sum for Hùng family, earned through immense sacrifice and endurance. Yet when they brought the money to find her, their last fragile hope was shattered once again. The house where Hùng mother lived was tightly shut, eerily silent. There were no signs of life, no response to their knocking, and none of the neighbors knew where she had gone or when she had left. Anxiety quickly turned into panic. Hùng and Hoai Ca were on the verge of collapse. Without time to think, they split up and searched everywhere in utter desperation. All through the long night, they wandered from one alley to another, from one street to the next, asking every acquaintance and checking every place where Hùng mother might have gone. But all they received were cold shakes of the head and terrifying silence. As hope slowly faded away, Hùng was forced to make the most difficult decision of all, to report the case to the police, hoping that the law could help uncover the truth behind this mysterious disappearance. The investigation officially began. Law enforcement authorities quickly stepped in, reviewing relationships, outstanding debts, and the last traces connected to Hùng mother. During the search, with the assistance of police dogs, the first clues were discovered on a deserted road, believed to be the starting point of the tragedy. Though these faint signs could not yet answer every question, they opened a new direction for the investigation, signaling that the truth was gradually coming to light, along with many tense and heartbreaking developments still awaiting ahead. At dawn, a thin layer of mist still lingered on the treetops along the roadside, not yet fully dispersed. The deserted road stretched out before them, silent and cold, as if trying to conceal what had happened during the night. On the surface of the road, deep tire tracks mixed with wet, muddy soil twisted and extended for quite a distance, enough to make anyone who saw them feel uneasy. The stillness was so heavy that every footstep, every breath seemed to carry weight. A small hair clip and a pair of old sandals were carefully collected by the police and placed into sealed evidence bags amid tense silence. They were familiar, ordinary items, yet at this moment they became chilling pieces of evidence, evoking a wordless fear. Lying there alone on the deserted road, they felt like the last remaining fragments of someone who had vanished, leaving behind countless unanswered questions. When Tucson saw the scene, she could no longer remain standing. Her legs gave way, her strength completely drained, and she collapsed into Hoai Ca's arms. A sob escaped her throat, broken and stifled, as if tightly strangled by pain. She didn't scream, nor did she have the strength to cry out, only dry, choking sobs echoed through the chilly morning, wrenching the hearts of everyone who witnessed them. Hoai Ca held Tucson tightly, her hands trembling, eyes filled with anguish and helplessness, doing her best to keep her from completely breaking down. Nearby, Hùng quietly turned his face away. His features were rigid, his jaw clenched so tightly that the muscles in his face stood out sharply. His hands curled into fists, fingernails digging into his skin until they drew blood, yet he seemed completely unaware. As someone in the profession, he understood better than anyone what the signs before him meant. They were not random coincidences, nor were they a simple accident. Every detail, every mark carried a terrifying message, one he did not want to face, yet could not avoid. After documenting the initial scene, the local police quickly decided to expand the search area. Task forces were clearly assigned and spread out in multiple directions, combing every section around the deserted road. Police dogs were brought back into the scene, carefully sniffing from the spot where the sandals and hair clip had been found. They moved slowly, noses close to the ground, following the lingering scent in the damp morning air. The trail gradually led everyone away from the main road toward a vacant lot bordering an old, long-abandoned industrial area. Wild grass grew thickly, the ground uneven, and the surroundings deserted. The deeper they went, the heavier the atmosphere became, as if the place had once witnessed something ominous. Everyone held their breath, watching every movement, no one daring to speak and break the tension that enveloped them. At the vacant lot, a detail immediately caught everyone's attention. On the damp ground, fresh tire tracks were clearly imprinted, deep and distinct, stretching in a specific direction. The marks had not yet been erased by rain or wind, indicating they had appeared not long ago. One officer stepped closer to examine them carefully, then spoke softly, his voice low. "There's a possibility the victim was put into a vehicle here." The brief statement echoed through the air, yet it was enough to make the atmosphere instantly turn cold. Everyone stood still, each lost in their own thoughts, but all shared the same heavy feeling in their hearts. The initial clues, though still fragmented, were beginning to connect, forming a grim picture of what might have happened. And from that moment on, everyone understood that the road ahead in the search for the truth would not be easy. Indeed, it would be far harsher and more heartbreaking than they had imagined. While the authorities were still meticulously examining every small detail at the scene, Hoai Ca suddenly froze. Her eyes widened slightly, as if she had just stumbled upon a long-forgotten fragment of memory. A vague yet haunting detail suddenly surfaced clearly in her mind. Before losing contact, Hung's mother had once told her, in a hesitant voice, that she would meet the lender again at the same old place. At the time, the remark had passed by quickly, no specific address, no clear time, just a vague reference, so Hoai Ca hadn't thought much of it. Now, standing in this cold, desolate setting, that sentence suddenly felt heavier than ever, like a crucial puzzle piece finally falling into place. Hoai Ca immediately reported this detail to the authorities. Upon hearing it, Hung did not hesitate for a second. He proactively provided all the information he had about the debt collector, from background details and methods of contact to the entire course of the borrowing that had dragged on for so long. He clearly recounted every instance his mother had been pressured, every threatening phone call that came relentlessly through the night, and the cold warnings that had forced the family to live in fear for an extended period. As someone in the profession, he understood that no detail could be overlooked, no matter how small, because even the tiniest piece could become the key to uncovering the truth. The investigators quickly recorded all the statements. A case file was opened on the spot, and data related to the loan history, contact phone numbers, and the timing of the calls were carefully reviewed. The working atmosphere grew noticeably more urgent. After compiling the initial information, the case was officially determined to show serious signs and was redirected toward a criminal investigation. This meant that every clue and every prior action would now be examined from a criminal perspective, no longer treated as a simple missing person case. Throughout this process, CEO Hoai barely spoke. He stood slightly apart from the crowd, his eyes quietly observing everything with deep concentration. His silence was not indifference, but intense focus. At the first opportunity, he discreetly called his legal team, instructing them to be on standby and ready to cooperate if needed. At the same time, he reached out to trusted contacts, asking them to review all traffic cameras and private surveillance systems around the deserted road as well as nearby routes. The calls came one after another, brief yet decisive. Each instruction was delivered clearly, without unnecessary words. While the authorities focused on the scene and witness statements, CEO Hoai quietly opened another line of approach, hoping to obtain visual evidence that could further support the investigation. Time passed slowly under the weight of tense anticipation. No one spoke, yet everyone shared the same suffocating anxiety. Then, just a few hours later, CEO Hoai's phone vibrated. He answered, nodded slightly, and the call ended surprisingly quickly. When he hung up, his expression turned grave. His voice lowered as he said, "There's footage of an unfamiliar pickup truck appearing at exactly that time." As the words fell, the space around them seemed to freeze. Everyone held their breath as a chill ran down their spines. That pickup truck might have been nothing more than a vehicle passing by, but it could also be the most crucial piece of the puzzle so far. Their eyes met, filled with both fear and hope, all understanding that the truth was drawing very close, yet it might also bring with it painful realities that no one was truly ready to face. That same afternoon, the atmosphere at the police headquarters grew quieter than usual. The late-day sunlight streamed through the window, falling across the cold work table where Hung slowly placed the 80 million VND he had prepared. Each bundle of cash was neatly tied and carefully arranged, as if it still carried the last fragile hope his family had been clinging to. It was the money he and Hoai Ca had struggled everywhere to gather, the result of sleepless nights and countless moments of bowing their heads in desperation, driven by the single wish of saving his mother from the crushing debt. Yet now, that money no longer held any promise of salvation. It lay silently on the table, becoming part of the case file, an agonizing piece of evidence for a tragedy that had come too late. Hùng stood there for a moment, his gaze fixed on the familiar banknotes, his heart heavy. No one spoke, but everyone understood that each bill carried layers of helplessness and regret. In that moment, the boundary between hope and despair seemed to blur completely. What should have been able to buy his mother's safety had instead become a stark reminder of cruel circumstances and haunting delay. Hoai Ca quietly turned away, unable to look at it any longer. She walked slowly toward the window, her shoulders trembling slightly. Tears fell silently, no sobs, no sound, just the mute tears of someone utterly exhausted by pain. She understood all too clearly that from this moment on, her family's path had completely changed. They were no longer simply searching for a missing loved one. They were stepping into a journey in pursuit of justice, a long, cold, and grueling path where the truth might be even more painful than everything they had already endured. The investigation was soon intensified. Information collected earlier began to be connected, each small detail weighed and analyzed. Authorities stepped up verification of related relationships, re-examined movement timelines, phone calls, and suspicious transactions. During this process, the debt collector began to show unusual behavior. He no longer appeared openly as before, and familiar points of contact were gradually cut off. Signs of evasion became increasingly evident, casting an even darker and more tense shadow over the case. At the same time, through cross-checking and verification, previously hidden connections slowly came to light. Details that once seemed fragmented began to link together, revealing a network far more complex than initially assumed. Each new clue carried a heavy weight. It brought them closer to the truth, yet also deepened the unease and fear of what still remained concealed. At the center of the office, Hùng stood silently before the case diagram board. On it were notes, arrows linking events, timelines, and individuals involved. His eyes carefully traced every detail, missing nothing. At this point, the look in his eyes was no longer that of a desperate son searching for his mother. Instead, it was the calm, cold determination of a police officer confronting both professional duty and personal pain at the same time. He knew the road ahead would be extremely harsh. Every step forward in the investigation could mean facing the most painful truths. But no matter how much it hurt, no matter what lay ahead, he stood firm before that board, quietly taking a deep breath. Because now more than ever, he knew he could not allow himself to collapse. The truth had to be exposed, justice had to be served, and that was the only thing he could do, for his mother, for his family, and for his own conscience. Whether Hung's mother is still alive remains the most haunting question hanging over the minds of everyone present. No one dares to be certain, and no one has the courage to imagine the worst possible outcome. The prolonged silence following the newly uncovered clues only allows the anxiety to spread further, like a cold mist enveloping every thought. With each passing hour, each minute of waiting becomes a form of torment, because behind this disappearance lies not only the fate of a mother, but also the fragile hope of an entire family standing on the brink of collapse. Who is truly behind this entire incident? Is the debt collector merely the one who carried out the act, or are there other hands quietly manipulating and controlling everything from the shadows? The hidden connections that have gradually come to light show that the case is far from as simple as it first appeared. Every detail exposed gives rise to new questions, adding another layer of fog that obscures the truth and makes the path to the final answer more uncertain and dangerous than ever. So what truth awaits them ahead? It may be a reality no one wants to face, or it may be the last faint glimmer of hope shining through the deep darkness. But whatever it may be, everyone understands that there is no turning back. Once the wheels of the investigation begin to turn, everything will continue moving forward until the truth is fully revealed, no matter how great the cost. From this moment on, the confrontation between justice and crime officially begins. There is no longer room for avoidance or compromise. On one side are those who carry responsibility and faith in righteousness. On the other is the darkness of guilt and cruelty, struggling to conceal itself. These two paths have collided, opening a series of tense, brutal, and deeply painful developments. What happens next remains an unknown. The fate of Hung's mother, the truth behind the case, and the outcome of this confrontation will gradually be revealed in the chapters to come. Stay tuned for the next episode to continue following this journey in search of the truth, where every step forward must be paid for with tears, pain, and unyielding resilience. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay mình buồn quá. Tạm biệt mọi người.